My small story is complete fly on the wall and ninja style.
I love it.
So when I left William Morris, the William Morris agency, I moved back to New York and I hooked up with a dude named Stu Fine, and we were going to start a record label together called Wild Pitch Records.
Yeah.
And I had the band The Nasty Boys from Newark, and they had the hip hop hit list. So we were making records. I got Fred Schneider of the B-52s to do our first record with us. And then young DJ from Boston, Dad was a judge, went to Morehead State, Keithy, met me at a club, gave me his tape, I listened to it, I said, I like his rhyme. I like his rhyme style. Stu and I were trying to figure out, we're going to start this record label together. He wanted to call it Wild Pitch because he was a big Boston Red Sox fan. I'm a Cleveland fan. I'm like, no man, we can't, we got to rock it. We can't use Wild Pitch. And I decided at that point, because I had the Nasty Boys, that I didn't want to manage Keith.
Yeah.
I handed it off to Wild Pitch, and I didn't want to run a record label. I was just like so burned out on the William Morris agency stuff. And the next thing you know, it blew up on Wild Pitch.
Yeah. You sound like Matty C, who introduced Biggie to Puffy.
But you know what? I'd run into Keith on occasion. We'd always goof around about it, because I said, it was just like I have a nose for talent. Like I brought Sade to William Morris, they wouldn't sign her.
Oh man.
I brought New Edition to, and they said, oh, they're too much like the Jackson 5. I said, exactly.
Oh man, that's a pretty
And then I just started doing my own thing. And then that's why I started, writing, and I was the editor-in-chief of Creem magazine. And then Prince hired me to do. I was the only journalist to interview Prince when he was the artist formerly known as.
Dude, where's your journey start? Where are you from, by the way?
Akron, Ohio.
I'm from Detroit.
All right, so see the Midwest.
Yeah.
Started in the Midwest. I got my gig at William Morris. Then you get.
What's the story behind it?
Just trying to share conversation. It's like interview shows are kind of boring, but you can get like a really interesting conversation with people.
Oh, I use Vimeo as well.
Yeah.
Why do you think Vimeo? That was a tough choice, actually. What do you use? YouTube,
well, actually,
video,
right now I'm using. This video interplay is through my guys at. There's Henry Butler, Tilda Swinton, Glenn Tilbrook and Squeeze, the sub-dudes, Ron Howard.
How's it going for you?
Great. Matthew Shipp, the jazz dude.
So you should have quality cameras.
But we're doing ninja style. It's really fly on the wall. I mean, you're doing super fly on the wall, which is great.
Yeah.
We come in with 2 cameras, HD cameras, and that's it. Just 2 of us, and then we do. I say any person that really is afraid to travel and to get outside their sphere of reality is doing themselves a disservice.
Good point.
The greatest education comes from being in front of indigenous people in a region you've never been to, whether it's India, New York City, Africa, France, wherever it may be. Get away from your comfort. I think fear is one of the big issues for people.
You're right.
On a lot of levels. I think fear of having success.
You're right about your dude.
Stepping outside of the box you've been painted into. Because let's face it, when you grow up in the Midwest, your options are very limited, and your environment dictates your future. So to think outside of the box, maybe if you didn't go to art school and you're really into a business mindset, you're going to be kind of locked in that box. It's really hard to break free from there.
Good point. So instead of your environment dictating your future, you should dictate your environment.
Right. You should say, look, okay, that might work for my parents. Like get married when you're 21, have 2.3 kids, work in Detroit in the auto mills or in the rubber mills in Akron. That may not be your thing. It may be what you've been programmed to believe.
Gotcha.
But leaving those ideologies, or like leaving the ideological aspects of a religion or something. You can be spiritual and accept all religions. You can be a deep thinker and live within the confines of your social environment. You can still stay there. But if you travel, your website, like my website, is all about discovery. You want people to discover it, and then let them be your Johnny Appleseed. You don't have to pimp it for yourself.
Tell them your name, your website.
I'm Dusty Wright, and the site is Culture Catch, CATCH.com. We're catching culture. I'm like trying to help people find like the good stories out there, the interesting interviews. It's a little bit more long form. If I interview a director like Ron Howard, it's like about him as an artist. What motivates him?
Something that's timeless or evergreen content, as they call it.
I don't care about your new movie, Ron. I want to know you as a human being.
And that's what people want to know. You actually are humanizing celebrities. Like I think we're all on the same page.
Conversation like we're having.
Yeah, it's almost like life coach.
Right.
Because you can't. Nobody wants to be preached to. man, but I'll listen to your conversation individually, and you learn things.
I interviewed Les Paul before he passed away.
Okay.
And one of the things that was really interesting for me, because I go in as a blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
Tell me what
unscripted.
Unscripted. Les said, I said, what do you read, Les? He said, I read manuals, because I'm always trying to better the things that I've already created and learn and create new things.
Okay.
This is a guy that was in his 90s when I interviewed him.
Gotcha.
I thought, that's a beautiful sentiment. He hadn't given up like, oh, I'm 80, so I can't play the guitar as fast as I used to.
Yeah.
I can still create and engage my brain.
Yeah.
And share that with other human beings.
Yeah.
Or a great writer who says, I'm always, I'm always trying to paint outside the box. A writer once said that to me. I thought, that's really interesting. Don't just limit yourself to what you know.
Yeah,
Think of a great artist like David Bowie. He's collaborated. He's borrowed from Kabuki Theater, from Bobby Darin, glam. He's borrowed elements from everything. He's always reinventing himself.
Is that what you're doing now? You're reinventing yourself, or do you think
it's
you're
another chapter in my life, man?
That's good looking at.
New York to me is like every day you walk outside of your apartment, there's another chapter. Take a different route to work.
Yeah, you're right.
Don't walk down this. Don't go to the same coffee shop. Maybe you'll meet somebody new.
What's some of the best things you got out of your wife's website? Because I know people have mentioned things to you. Is there a story that you did or conversation you put on there that's, something randomly someone made you realize you're on the right point,
I think when the artist that you're interviewing says this is the best interview I ever did.
Cheers.
Like David Lynch really liked the interview I did with him, and I thought, wow, I'm a big fan. Alan Ball, he said the same thing. Or like, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah.
As a human being and not as a commodity selling a movie or selling my music. When we have music acts on, my thing is I always have a guitar on set. Like, play me something. What are you in the mood to play? Like Andy Summers of The Police was on, and he didn't play a police song. He played a Carlos Jobim song. Because that's what he wanted. That's where his head is. He's like, I can play all this.
Just like I do ethnography. You're like you're an ethnographer because you're talking to people in the context of the environment, in the mindset they want to be in.
Great space we're in now. I love Philadelphia. When I came in here, I said, this is an artisan. This is a New Yorker who is living his dream.
That's always a funny thing with the New Yorker. I still can't define what a New Yorker is. I mean,
it's an individual spirit. It's an ideology. It's I think we're all here for the same reason, is to commune in that kind of aesthetic. Like, you're creative. Let's collaborate. Tell me your story. Where are you from? Oh, the Midwest. Really? Did you have? Yeah, you felt like you didn't fit in. Oh, and now you feel like you fit in. And then you meet a woman or your spouse, and you find the same kind of discipline. When I met my wife, it's like, look, I'm not leaving the city. Let's get this. I'm not moving to the suburbs. I didn't move here to move out. And she goes, I feel the same way.